Hey guys, Marcin here bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so we just got done watching the Global Dokkan Campaign full reveal stream. I wasn't expecting it to be basically an hour long, but there was a lot of fluff at the beginning, a lot of the stuff with them messing around, talking about the free stones, the tile breaking challenge and all that kind of stuff. So I think we were a good like 20 minutes in before we really saw any of the stuff that we really wanted to see. But I'm going to break down all the important information. Like I said, I'm not going to go over any of the stuff like the free stone challenge. Everyone's getting 50 stones. As always, they set some challenges and of course they hit them because they kind of always intend to give those stones out anyway. So we're going to talk about all the interesting and relevant stuff that we know that is coming for the Global Dokkan campaign. So first up is this new event, which actually, funnily enough, is something that I know I saw people talk about years ago as an idea for an event with like free-to-play farmable characters. So just like the Metal Cooler free-to-play army, where it's like one unit of each typing, we are going to be able to get a farmable free-to-play Rosé clones army. So it'll be Goku Black, Super Saiyan Rosé brackets clone. I'm assuming they're just like the Metal Cooler free-to-play unit's going to have then like brackets AGL, brackets physical, so they all have unique names, right, and can be run together. That's going to be very interesting, especially considering like, you know, you can easily fill out a team of like a full Rosé and Zamasu kind of build with some of the new units and the super easy A's and stuff like that, and then you can kind of plug any of the gaps with these free-to-play units for a kind of funny theme team like that. Because remember, with the free-to-play Metal Coolers, I think it was the STR one, gave support, which obviously made him useful to actually throw on some of these other teams. So this is kind of cool, just a nice little niche free-to-play thing. I'm not expecting these guys to be mega busted or anything like that, but definitely something that is a little bit fun as a little free-to-play farmable event. So I do quite like this. Then we have Battlefield. Now this is really interesting because the way they talked about it, it does make it seem like this is going to be a permanent change for all battlefields, although they didn't confirm that, because they basically talked about how it's difficult to make like 16 teams or whatever it was they said. So the character limit is now being reduced from 112 to 35. So this basically means you only need to make 5 teams. So there will only be, what, 4 fights, I guess, or 3, because if you can only make 5 teams and there's 5 fights, it means you can't lose a fight or it's game over. Whereas obviously in the normal battlefield, you always have spare teams left over. So I'm assuming that means there's only going to be 3 or 4 bosses if you can only build 5 teams. So this is going to be interesting. But yeah, special global campaign, special edition part 1, Ultimate Clash. Yeah, only 5 teams, so that'll be interesting, especially to see what the difficulty will be. I can expect, I mean, it only shows 3 characters on the banner, but I would expect maybe it is just 3 fights, and then maybe the third one is pretty hard, so you can have 2 backup teams. But that's quite interesting if they do keep that format going forward. Hopefully they do a bit of a revamp to the rewards as well, because the worst possible thing they could do is by having there be less fights, we get less battlefield memories, because that has always been an issue with that currency, right? But this is quite interesting to see what they're going to do with this. Then they talked about all the stuff related to 7. They talked about the Wish campaign on Twitter and some of that stuff. This is the infinite boosts, because basically the 7th of the 6th, the 6th of the 7th, 5 o'clock, which I'll show the screenshot later, but this is confirmed when the banner's coming out, by the way. This is when this boost restores after 7 seconds starts, and you literally cannot complete the shortest event in the game in 7 seconds, so it is basically infinite boosts, because you use a boost, and by the time you finished whatever stage you were doing, that boost will have recharged, right? So you just have infinite boosts, which is going to be really good for farming all the medals for the new characters, as well as like anything else, like farming the free-to-play Goku Blacks, whatever it is, like all of that kind of stuff. Although we don't know what events are coming out right away. I'm assuming the free-to-play one will, because obviously this is only available for, what is it, like 12, no, 14 hours, something like that. But infinite boosts, pretty good. Then they have the Wish from Twitter, where a bunch of people will win. I think it's restricted to North America, and obviously if people wished for crazy stuff, I don't know how that's going to work. I think people will just get stones and not like what they actually wished for, which is kind of what they're implying, because I wished for them to bring back heroes, which we all know is never going to happen regardless, right? But still, would be kind of funny. And then yeah, with Global Dokkan Campaign, funnily enough, they showed this first, And this is obviously the thing that they always do, where there's missions so you can get extra medals quicker for awakening the new characters. But by showing this medal, they basically confirmed before actually telling us that the Goku and Vegeta are the Dokkan Fest and Zamasu and Rosé are the Carnival. But yeah, there'll be missions in order for you to get the medals a little bit faster. Then another thing they're doing, which I think is actually really interesting and very cool, to have little boosts for these new teams for the Blue Boys and Rosé and Zamasu, is the 5-year Tech Vegeta and the LR Int Rosé are going to have temporary boosts. So just like the characters that got boosts before the 10th anniversary, and funnily enough, the Tech Vegeta was actually one of them. So we don't know whether that boost that he's going to get is going to be the same or whether it will be different. But these two are going to get boosts for a temporary period. Hopefully it'll be like the entire duration of the campaign. I guess we don't know for sure. But this is going to be very, very cool. These guys having a permanent boost, a temporary boost I should say, during the campaign. So that when you pull the new units, you can throw these guys on the team. And, you know, have a nice little solid foundation, because these characters are a bit older, people are more likely to have them. They're available with those special global stones that we got, the global Dokkan campaign stones. So yeah, that's pretty cool and definitely not expected. So yeah, then we'll get into the real meat of everything that we wanted to know, which was of course the details of the units. So we'll start off with Goku and Vegeta. They are a Super STR and they are Dokkan Fest. I mean, they're on 50 million categories because, of course, they are. That's the beauty of reversible exchange. So they are on an absolute ton of teams, which you love to see. Now, their leader skill, I don't think it's anything super crazy. It's Future Saga or Fused Fighters. And then the additional 50% is for Bond of Parent and Child or Final Trump Card. Now, this will make a very strong team for sure. Because, I mean, straight away, right? This team can have the 10-year fusions on it. You can have Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks on there. Like, there's going to be a lot of good options. Any of the Future Saga EZAs, of course, will end up being on this team as well, potentially. So, like, their team is definitely going to be very good. But it's not a very wide, like, expansive team, right, that fits a ton of different characters on it, which, you know, for Superclass, that's not so bad, because Superclass teams are a bit more varied across the board anyway. So their team is definitely going to be very good. The team that you can make with their leader skill will be very powerful, but it's not quite the leader skill I would have wanted for them. Interesting that they only have the 2 categories as well, considering the anniversary Dokkan Fests had 3, even though I guess they were introducing a new one as well, but like they had 3 rather than just the 2. But still a very solid leader skill, like I say, for the team that you're going to actually be able to build with them. Their team is going to be very, very strong for sure. So Goku, who we obviously start off as, the super attacks, 12 key super, greatly raises attack and raise defense for 1 turn. So it's a 50% attack raise, 30% defense raise for 1 turn. Colossal damage, lowers attack. And then the ultra super is greatly raise attacks, that's an infinite stack, does mega colossal damage and raises allies defense by 60% for 1 turn, self-excluded. So if you put him in slot 1, he does his 18 key super, and then your slot 2 and 3 units have 60% extra defense for that turn, which is obviously very, very good. So love to see that. And then Goku's kit, attack and defense 200%, additional 2 key per key sphere obtained, per superclass ally or future saga ally on the team, depending on which one has more members, attack and defense 50% up to 150, and then chance of evading enemies attack and damage reduction 20% up to 60. So this means if you're throwing them on other team builds, you need to have 3 superclass or future saga allies, which, I mean, very easy. So any teams that these guys go on with their 50 bajillion categories, as long as they've got 3 superclass allies, they're going to have 60% chance to dodge and 60% damage reduction, which is pretty good. When all allies in the same turn are superclass, or there's 1 other future saga ally in the same turn, they get a guaranteed additional super, an extra 20% dodge chance, and 10% damage reduction extra. So considering with the way you would run them on teams, like, I just feel like you're just always going to have this, right? You're either always going to have a future saga ally with them, or you're just going to be running them on teams with superclass allies. So that means that they actually have every turn, this Goku, 80% chance to dodge and 70% damage reduction, which is honestly quite insane. Like, that's really, really, really good. When activating the active skill or attacking with 18 or more ki, he gets 200% extra attack and attacks effective against all types, so it should hit pretty hard as well. When receiving an attack, gets 180% defense. So we've talked about recently how many of these units have gotten 200% defense when they receive an attack. 180% is pretty close to that, but considering he's also going to have 70% damage reduction, like, this guy should be a very, very good slot 1 tank. The only thing that would be doing damage to this guy is the hardest hitting slot 1 supers, but even then, like, with the amount of HP this team's potentially going to have, I don't see this guy getting one shot by the bosses we currently have. So that's very interesting. And then starting from the 4th turn, obviously you can then reversible exchange into Vegeta. So Vegeta's super attacks, Rage of Our Warrior Race. I'm not going to put the animations in the video, I didn't record them, but his 12 ki is the beatdown of Rosé, which I was really hoping would get a revamp animation sometime soon. So I'd love to see that. It greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn, colossal damage and lowers defense. And then his 18 ki super is the final flash, massively raises attack and raises defense for 1 turn and does mega colossal damage. So no stacking on either of his supers, but he does massively raise attack on the 18 ki and then greatly raise on any additional, so that is pretty good. And then his kit, reversible exchange with Goku, ki 7, attack and defense 200%, high chance to crit, high chance to dodge, 40% damage reduction, ki 3, and attack and defense 80% for the character and allies whose name include Trunks. So it's interesting that that's there, because obviously that's part of his like base kit, so it's actually like 10 ki and 280% attack and defense, but he also gives any allies whose name include Trunks 3 ki and 80% attack and defense. That's quite interesting. As the 3rd attacker in a turn, he gets 150% extra attack and a guaranteed crit, which is an interesting choice. When attacking with 18 or more ki, an extra attack and defense 250 launches an additional super. When activating the active skill or attacking with 20 or more ki, 150% extra defense and launch an additional super attack. So the Vegeta ideally wants to be in slot 2 or 3, really in slot 3 for his full buffs, which then gives him a crazy amount of attack and guaranteed crits, a ton of extra defense, 2 additional supers if you get to 20 ki. The only thing I think about this guy is, like, Goku seems so ridiculously good defense-wise with that 80% dodge, 70% damage reduction. I genuinely don't understand why you would ever switch to this Vegeta. Like, he is good, don't get me wrong, like, at all. He is good. But, like, what is he doing? I mean, I guess the main thing is, especially if he's in slot 3 and you're getting 20 ki, well, especially it's more so the 18, because 20 doesn't give you any extra attack, but I guess 20 does give you an additional super. He probably does more damage than Goku, especially if he's in slot 3, but, like, I feel like everything else about this card, like the Goku part, is just better. I don't know if there's something I'm missing, but let me know what you guys think. But I feel like unless some niche sort of opens up and we discover some cool, like, play with this, like, part of the card, I genuinely don't know why I would ever switch to Vegeta. But because it's not like if you start with both of them on turn 1, you can't use the argument of, oh, well, at least one of them's really good in slot 3, because you can't exchange until turn 4. So that doesn't really matter. But I don't know, interesting. But let me know what you guys think, of course. And then we get the active skills. So Goku's the Potara counter attack, which, my god, that Vegeta Blue animation, it is so good. Raises attack by 300% temporarily and causes ultimate damage to the enemy. Attack and defense 20% and can nullify attacks that are guaranteed to hit, making it possible to evade these attacks in battle. So this seems to be, it means permanently. So 20% extra attack and defense and can nullify, so can dodge non-dodgeable attacks. I'm assuming it just means for them. So if you use Goku's active skill with the Vegeta Blue attack, they get a permanent 20% attack and defense buff and can dodge enemies that disable dodge, but only for themselves, by the way this reads. And this can be used from the 4th turn from the start of battle. So basically, as soon as the reversible exchange is available, you can use this and just use the, which it seems crazy, because then Goku is going to be even stronger with that 80% chance to dodge, and can then dodge attacks that normally wouldn't be dodgeable, with extra defense, which is multiplicative because it's an active skill, on top of having 70% damage reduction. So again, making the Goku part of the card absolutely insane. Whereas Vegeta's one, massively raised attack temporarily, does ultimate damage to the enemy, guards all attacks, and future Saga allies attack and defense 15%, plus additional 10% defense for characters who also belong to Bond of Parent and Child for 4 turns. So the unit themselves, even if you switch back to Goku, you get guard, and then you get 15% attack and 25% defense for future Saga Bond of Parent and Child characters, which obviously this unit is. Trunks and Vegeta will be, because they'll probably easy A. Like, there's a couple of characters on the team that will get a really nice buff out of this, whereas Goku's obviously only gives the buff to themselves. But again, like, I guess giving the guard for 4 turns is pretty cool, but I feel like Goku is so good defensively, he doesn't really need it. Like, so I mean, Goku's one, if you're doing in an event where the boss can disable dodge, then Goku's one's kind of a no-brainer. Otherwise, this one is pretty good for buffing the rest of the team, but I don't know, I still feel like Goku's one's probably just better, because it just makes him even better as that slot 1 defensive wall that is then 18 key supering, giving everyone else on the rest on the rotation an extra 60% defense. So pretty cool. I mean, the animation's really good, but again, like, every part of the Goku card, I think, including the active skill, is better. But obviously, let me know what you guys think down below. So that's Goku and Vegeta. Definitely a very powerful card. I just think it's very one-sided towards the Goku side, but obviously let me know if I'm missing something and Vegeta's actually really good. But I'm not to say that he's not really good, but just Goku seems way better. But I don't know. So then we have Rosé and Zamasu. They are also STR, but of course they're extreme. They're on a bunch of categories as well. Because of reversible exchange, they get stuff like Power Beyond Super Saiyan, Kamehameha, and then obviously because of Zamasu, Gifted Warriors, successors. I think Rosé's Goku Black's all the successors anyway. But tons of decent teams. Corroded Body of Mine is because of Rosé as well. So pretty decent categories. Now, unfortunately, as the Carnival LR, they have a single category, 4 key and 220%, and it is super bosses, which I do feel is a little bit disappointing out of all the possible ones that they could have had. I do think that is a bit of a shame. Like, Super Bosses is a team that needs quite a lot of work to be good. I mean, we did just get the new hit, and we got some other Universe 6 character like upgrades, like the Tech Kale and Caulifla Easy A. So I mean, some of those units will work relatively well on this team, but these guys, similarly to the Goku and Vegeta, do have stuff where they want to be run with extreme characters. So Hit benefits from that, but not so much units like Kale and Caulifla, right? So I'm not hugely happy with the leader skill, but you know, it is what it is at the end of the day. So we start off with Rosé, of course. His super attack, the 12 key, greatly raises attack and raise defense for 1 turn. Colossal damage to the enemy lowers attack. And then the 18 key, the Black Kamehameha, greatly raises attack, which is the infinite stack. Mega colossal damage and raises allies attack by 60% for 1 turn. So just like the Goku, 60% buff to allies with his 18 key super, but it's for attack rather than defense. And then the kit, attack and defense 200%, additional 2 key per key sphere obtained, attack and defense 80%, and attacks effective against all types for all allies whose name include Goku Black. So obviously that includes him as well. But it means any base Goku Black, any Rosé, any other like Goku Black and Zamasu, all get this buff, which is interesting. And then per extreme class ally or future saga ally on the team, depending which has more members, attack and defense 50% up to 150, chance of performing a crit and damage reduction 20% up to 60. So just like the Goku, 3 allies, you get the full stats, and then 60% chance to crit and 60% damage reduction, which is pretty good. When all allies in the same turn are extreme, or there's one future saga ally, he has guard. So guard on top of the 60% damage reduction is obviously very, very good. When activating the active skill or attacking with 18 or more key, 200% extra attack, additional attack that has a great chance to become a super. When receiving an attack, a 180% defense up, just like the Goku. I mean, that combined with guard and 60% damage reduction should make this Rosé a really, really strong slot 1 tank as well, so that's very good. And then from turn 4 you meet up with Zamasu for the reversible exchange. Zamasu's 12 key greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn, colossal damage lowers defense. The 18 key massively raises attack and defense for 1 turn, mega colossal damage, and recovers 20% HP, so that's very interesting. Massively raises 100%, so attack and defense, pretty good. And then his kit, Reversible exchange with Goku Black, obviously. Key 7, attack and defense 200%. High chance to crit and then guard. When attacking, 200% attack and defense. Future Saga, extreme class allies, damage reduction 10%. So it's interesting because that only happens when he attacks. So if he's attacking in like slot 2, the unit in slot 1 will have already had their go and been attacked and done their attacks. But then this unit and the unit in slot 3 will get 10% damage reduction for Future Saga extreme class allies. When attacking with 20 key or doing the active skill, attack and defense 200%, launch an additional super, and then attack and defense 300%, guaranteed crit, and recovers 6% of damage dealt as HP when HP is 60% or less. So the interesting thing about this, much like the Vegeta situation, I think Rosé is definitely better than Zamasu. However, I can see the like situation where the Zamasu would actually be really good as like a niche example. So if you start the turn at 60% or less HP, and so you switch over to Zamasu, you not only get this massive like 500% buff, he also then recovers 6% of the HP dealt, damage dealt, and he's recovering 20% HP on his 18 key super anyway. Now all of these buffs are still when attacking, so you can't really put him in slot 1. But yeah, if you're at 60% or less HP, like if you're at really low HP start of turn, you switch to Zamasu, do this massive attack where he's going to have this extra 500%, and he's healing 6%, like he's going to heal you back to full. So that's where I can see an example for this guy being really, really good. Because I'm assuming it means when activating the active skill, so if you're at 60% or less HP, actually if you just use the active skill should heal you 6% of the damage dealt. And then if you really wanted to, you could just switch back to Rosé. So definitely very, very interesting. The active skill for these guys, Goku Black's one is the Holy Light Grenade. Massively raises attack temporarily, does all my damage. All attacks become critical hits, and Super Boss's allies get attack and defense 15%, as well as additional 10% defense for Future Saga allies for 4 turns. So his is similar to the Vegeta one. So for 4 turns, his attacks become all guaranteed crits, and then gives Future Saga Super Bosses a whole bunch of defense and a bit of attack, which can be started from turn 4. And then the Zamasu one for the Fusion Zamasu, which also looks really cool. Massively raises attack temporarily, does all my damage to the enemy, but then gives this unit a permanent 4 key and 40% attack in battle. So I'm assuming that applies to the active skill attack itself. So if you think on the turn, if you're at 60% or less HP, when you use this active skill, Zamasu is going to be getting 540% extra attack, whilst also healing you 6% of that damage, which is kind of insane, and that can be used straight away. So that seems really, really good. Like I say, Zamasu can be used as like a crazy, almost like emergency heal, but I do think overall, again, just like the Goku, I think overall the Goku Black is much better, but Zamasu definitely will have his uses as well. The fact that he has guard, he could just be a very strong slot 2 attacker if you do have a turn where you have another slot 1 unit, or if there's like a scouter effect in play and you can see the supers in slot 2. Zamasu will be very powerful defensively after attacking. And then of course when it comes to the active skill, you can either get the couple of turns of support and guaranteed crits, or just the permanent attack buff for this enemy, which is for this unit, which is really, really cool. So then we also got confirmation of 2 Super Easy A's, the details of which will be being released later today on Twitter. As we all suspected, Physical Vegeta Blue and AGL Rosé are going to get their Super Easy A's, so this will be very, very good. Obviously, as we said, the AGL Rosé, he counts as one of the characters that's going to be getting that buff from Goku Black's passive, because he's a character whose name includes Goku Black. So this guy from release was a really good support, so hopefully he's going to be another like key linchpin for the team and can just be there as a floating support, giving everyone a crazy buff. And then Vegeta Blue, obviously Physical Vegeta Blue, the only one that has counters, so hopefully he's really good. They maybe give him a little bit of extra damage reduction against the normals, and maybe some way to survive better against supers. But remember, if you're running him on the team with the new Goku Vegeta, Goku in slot 1 with his 18 key super gives an extra 60% defense. So this guy should be, as long as they don't fumble the Super Easy A of course, he should be able to tank like all normals in the game while throwing out counters, and then hopefully having some sort of defensive capability for super attacks. But yeah, this is very exciting. Obviously, when we get the details, I will do a video talking about these guys as well. Then we also have confirmation. So as I did say, they did talk about the banners. So part 1 of the summon will be held on the 6th of the 7th at 5 PM PST. So bearing in mind, depending on your time zone, it is already the 6th of the 7th for me. I'm recording this after the stream, so it's like 4:30 AM. So this is 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the US on Sunday the 6th, right? So that's basically today. I know if you're in PST, it's not actually the 6th yet already, but that means that this video is going to be going up very soon, but it means that the banner's out in like 20 hours or something. So literally less than 24 hours now from now, the banner's going to be out, which is pretty awesome. And then to close it off, they mentioned the web store again, another code for 7 free stones, Global 2025. They're pushing this super hard because they want people to use the web store as much as possible, because it makes them more money than the actual in-game shop where they have to give a percentage of the stuff to Google or Apple. So yeah, they're pushing this obviously pretty hard. So there you go. Lots of very exciting stuff. The Super Easy A's, I think both the units are really good. Let me know which one you think is better. These guys getting a temporary boost is super cool. And then I really like this for like the free-to-play event. So let me know what you guys think. That's all the stuff we got from the stream that was worth reporting on. Banner out in less than 24 hours is pretty hype. The details for Rosé and Zamasu, I imagine, are probably going to drop in the next couple of hours. But since I had to stay up till like 4 AM to watch the stream and then record this video, I probably will be asleep when they drop. But as soon as I wake up, I will make a video breaking down the details for anything else that's new that has been announced. So let me know all your guys' thoughts down below in the comments section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ninja. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.